All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Stephanie Mueller, and I'm the Membership and Events Coordinator for the Medina Chamber and Coordinator for Medina County Safety Council. We are so excited to have you joining us today for the first of our new year, our FY22 year. So as a reminder, we are asking that everybody please keep their microphones on mute and to turn the cameras off so that we can ensure proper bandwidth for our presentation for today. If you have questions as we go, please feel free to pop them up in the chat box. Carrie and I can answer those questions as we go, whether it's for us or whether it's for our speakers today for the presentation. So our agenda, we will have a BWC update from Carrie, and then we will have our representatives from Osha with us today to give us an update. We'll take question and answers at the end, and then we will adjourn. So just a quick reminder, I know that we have announced this a couple times and sent out emails for FY22, which started July 1st of this year and runs through June 30th of 2022. We will again be virtual per BWC. We will still be providing monthly meetings, but we will not be having an attendance requirement. Rebates will be suspended until we can be back in person again. There is no CEO attendance requirement, and we will not be collecting the semi-annual reports. So we will keep reminding you of this, but we will be providing relevant information each month. So we do encourage you to attend each month as we do our virtual meetings, and they will be kept to the third Tuesday of each month with two exceptions. BWC is planning super meetings, and we will get those dates out to you as soon as we have those. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Carrie to give the BWC update.
Hi, everybody. Carrie Gray, safety consultant for the BWC. Most of the names that I'm seeing pop in here, I know you or I've met you. I am very glad that you're here, and this is going to be a really good one today. The first slide that I have is just again to remind you that I am still here for you virtually. Even though I can't see you in person, even though at this moment I still can't come out to your facility, it's okay, and I'm still here to help. So I'm cheering for you, and I get a lot of questions, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls. Keep those coming. So if you have questions, especially after this presentation today, you may have additional questions or looking for additional programs. And I'm sure throughout the course of the year, since we're doing an OSHA Top 10, which is today is the kickoff, you're going to need some programs or some assistance. And so that's what I'm here for. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is, like Stephanie said, this is the beginning of our program year for Safety Council, but it's also the beginning of our program year for any other BWC programs that you may be in. If you are in even group retro, group rating, this is the beginning of that program year. If you're in things like industry-specific safety program, ISSP, transitional work, any of those other programs, this is the beginning of the year. So just know that, you know, programs are starting off again. This is a new kickoff. If you're in programs and you're not sure what you're supposed to be doing, give me a call. We'll figure it out and go through that together. A couple webinars coming up in August. We have Engaging Millennials in Safety and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Safety Teams, both of those coming up in August. So know that those are out there and available for you. The next slide that I wanted to talk about just kind of briefly, and given a push here for OSHA, there's some really good stuff on heat illness, heat stress, prevention. This is the time of year we should have already probably talked about it a little bit, but it's so hard in Ohio because we go from, you know, 65 degrees to 95 degrees, back to 70 to 80, and it jumps around so much that we don't give our bodies time to acclimate. And so it's really important that your folks are aware of the signs and symptoms. That's really one of the biggest things that we can do. And OSHA has a lot on their heat illness campaign. So just know that that's out there and that's available to you. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is I've had a couple folks, and I'm hearing this more out of central Ohio, but I've had a couple folks start talking about poison hemlock. And poison hemlock, it's actually, I hadn't known that much about it until I started doing some research because some folks were asking me. It's kind of scary because it looks almost exactly like Queen's Anne lace. I'm sure I'm not saying that right. But it's very toxic to people, wildlife. It can cause respiratory paralysis, all kinds of stuff. So if you have folks working outside, a lot of the times it likes to grow like on the side of highways, on the side of roads. If you have folks working in those areas or doing landscaping or anything like that outside, it's good for them to recognize this, to know what to do if they come across it. So that was just kind of a newer thing. You don't always see it in Ohio, but we're starting to see it, and it's kind of creeping up and down from 71. So just know that. The last thing that I have, slide-wise, just general topics to talk about. Mentioned this in the last couple meetings, OSHA and their emergency temporary standard for healthcare dealing with COVID. So that's available for you to look through and to find information on OSHA's website. As far as things coming up from the BWC and classes, we do have the first quarter, nothing in July, but you can see August and September schedule there. If you need that, shoot me an email. I'll definitely send that to you. I'll throw my email in the chat in just a minute. But so lots of classes. The NFPA 70E is always great, but all of these classes are good and going to give you a lot of good information. The last thing that I have before I introduce our amazing speakers is just a couple other resources that we have through the BWC. And I know you're getting sick of me saying this every month, but it's so important for you to know that these are out there. We have really good, and they're not really good just because I helped write them, but some of them are really good because I helped write them, sample written programs. And those are out there. They're meant for you to download and customize and implement and ask questions, and a lot of the work's done for you. So know that those are out there. Those are really good. The programs these two guys are going to talk about today, we have a lot of them already ready for you to customize. We have safety talks. We have the micro training videos, lots and lots of resources for you out there. So just don't forget that I'm out here. I can help. I know a lot of you call me, email me. It is so great to see you. I wish we could all have our cameras on because I love to see all of your faces, but we will get there, I promise. But with that, I am going to turn it over to an amazing duo. You won't even know what to do. This will probably be the best safety council meeting that you've ever been to. We are so lucky that we have both sides of the state. So we have Howie Ebert, and many of you have already seen him speak, and you know how amazing he is. But you're going to be really excited to hear Ken Montgomery, who is the Howie in Cincinnati. And we got so lucky to hear you both. So with you guys see down at the very bottom, you have a reaction button, and you can all clap. And we're going to give a warm Medina County Safety Council virtual clap to Ken and Howie. Thank you, guys.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I will try to share my screen now. We can figure out how to do that here.
So Carrie, while Howie's doing that, I've had several questions from employers when they get back, and it's not, everything's not virtual. Is the incentive going to come back to say, for the meetings, it is.
That's the hope. That's the hope. So obviously I don't have the checkbook. They took it out of my desk. I used to have it right here. I don't have the checkbook. It's not in my car anymore. What I'm hearing is, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. What I'm hearing is that is the hope and the expectation, but of course nothing is set in stone until then. But that's, definitely one of the things that we want to come back. So hopefully.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Now that Ken's done taking over, let me see if I can get this working. See if I can share screen here. Hold on.
Looks good.
It was working. Daggone it. Hold on.
I had it.
Oh, hold on. Let me grab it here. All right. This should work, I think. All right. Let me know if you can see it. All right, Carrie.
Yes.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. So thanks for having Ken and I here to talk. We wanted to kind of tell you a little bit about what OSHA is doing. Hopefully what you can take home today is the ability to identify the top things we're seeing in your type of workplace, and so that you can find them, you can fix them, and prevent somebody from getting hurt or killed, so we don't have to go out and find that. If you've seen my presentations before, you know that I always ask yourself why you work safely. And I brought Ken into this too, so he gets to take his turn. But if you know about me and my family, it's a highly estrogen dominated household with 5 daughters and a wife and all the dogs and cats and all that stuff. But we had during COVID the addition of the first male, my first grandkid, Finn. So Finian was born. He just turned 1, and he is my first grandkid from my wife, Lisa, and I. And I am not going to share Carrie's presentation because I saw the hemlock there. I don't want my wife to know about hemlock and how to use it and how to find it. But she's great. She's supported me through the whole thing. And, you know, I've got a little boy in the household now, so it's pretty cool. He's actually visiting this week, and got to take him swimming yesterday. So that's my reason. I'll turn it over to Ken a little bit. He can talk about his family a little.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, just like Howie, my household is completely estrogen driven. I do not, as you see in the center, that's my granddaughter. That is absolutely, I've never been so whipped over anything in my entire life. And unlike Carrie, my wife has taken my checkbook away because it was endless funds to her. The top right is my daughter, Hannah. Top left is my daughter and my wife, Tracy. And this is exactly why we all do work, you know, safely.
Thanks, Ken. So Ken and I are going to talk through this a little bit. I'm not going to bore you with this. OSHA continues to have a reason. We turned 50 last year. So we're this past year, and we're still needed. And it's still important what you do out in your workplace to increase the safety in your workplace and prevent injuries and illnesses. OSHA does it with a balanced approach, combination of enforcement, outreach, and compliance assistance. That's why Ken, as he stated, we like coming out to do these to try to get the word out. But, you know, we're primarily an enforcement agency. We have new leadership with the change of administration. Secretary Marty Walsh is our big boss. The Secretary of Labor, he used to be the mayor of Boston. He came from the union background. He knows OSHA. He supports OSHA. He's going to be a good presence for us in our agency, we believe, because he has a union background with the trades and knows construction and the importance of safety and health. Our boss right now, the Washington, D.C. is Jim Frederick. He's came from the United Steelworkers. I've known him for a long time through, he was the head in Pittsburgh, did a lot of work with OSHA. He's really good, knows safety and health, and is a genius on that. Another person in our national office who headed up our emergency temporary standard and our response to the pandemic is Chip Hughes. Comes from academia and is very familiar with the science behind all the COVID and the pandemic. And still waiting final confirmation and a start date is Doug Parker. He's the chief of, he was the chief of Cal OSHA. And so he has experience with OSHA as well, but he is, I believe he passed confirmation and he's just waiting for a start date. So we'll see when that happens, but we do have the ability to have people that understand safety and health leading us in DC. So we'll see how that goes. This is our jurisdiction coverage. I present that we're in the yellow here in the middle, region 5. We cover 6 states: Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Of those, the federal states are Ohio, Illinois, and Wisconsin. So OSHA is currently hiring. Go to USA Jobs or go to our website and you can click on the links. If you have safety and health experience, especially if you're a veteran of our military, we are taking good applicants. We're trying to hire as part of the emergency COVID funding that was released back earlier this year by President Biden. It had specific monies dedicated to increasing OSHA's enforcement numbers and compliance assistance. So you can see the coverage areas. Northeast Ohio is Cleveland, and then southeast is, or southwest is Ken's area down there. And see, we're separated. So we're doing this area director swap program, which is why you're seeing both of us up here. So, but we run things a lot the same. So Ken's going to jump in here anytime he wants and talk about some of the stuff we're going to talk about. So thanks for Ken for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Go ahead. Did you want to say something?
No, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. It's nice to get out to somewhere else and see how other folks are doing things. So it's nice.
Yeah, I treat you to lunch, but it's virtual lunch. So sorry about that, man.
He says that when we do this, but when we're in person, he never says that.
So, all right, you can only believe about half what Ken says, but I'll let you know. Anyhow, he's a great guy. I'm just kidding. But if you look at our tracking of the fatalities, they've gone up from fiscal year, which our fiscal year starts in October 1st every year. You're going to look and see this is very busy, but guess where exposure has already creeped in. And that we did last year, we did 60 official investigations in healthcare and related for fatalities for related to COVID, as well as 11 in manufacturing. So those were the ones reported to us that were confirmed cases that were actual deaths that we investigated. If you look at the big three, we call it, or the big four in Ohio and across the nation, it's usually caught in, electrocutions, struck by, and falls. And guess what? Exposure just came in, and that is because of the pandemic. But what we're going to talk about now for the top 10 violations, I want you to know, give it a relationship to the fatalities, the actual hazards that we're going to try to prevent. And the reason we're citing a lot of these are because they're killing people out there or seriously injuring. Now you'll see some are programmatic, but hopefully you can help going forward prevent these things from happening in your workplace. Carrie already covered this. I'm not going to belate you, but we do have COVID guidance out there. So I'm going to start with what we did for today's presentation is we know you represent a lot of different types of industries out there. We rounded it just for all of general industry. So this covers, manufacturing, it covers service industry, it covers healthcare, it covers a lot of different industries that we call general industry. It doesn't cover construction. So, but I'm going to show you how to utilize our website to run your own list, and hopefully you can do that for your own company. Now, these are the top 10 cited for fiscal year 2020, which is October 1st, 2019 through the end of September of this past year. So if you look at the standards, and I'm just going to cover these briefly real quick, and then I'm going to go through and show you some examples of the different components out there. But chemical hazard communication, having a written program when you have chemicals in the workplace, #1 violation that we cite. So do you use chemicals in your workplace? If you do, you should have a written hazard communication program. And Carrie has that nice link where you can have a sample program and write it up yourself. But if you don't have a program and some of the other aspects of that, which we'll show you in a minute, that's very important. We cite that all the time. Machine guarding, and we'll talk about that a little bit. If you can get your hand in, around, under, and through into something that's going to hurt you, it's probably a violation of 1910.212. So these are, you insert a 1910 before these, and that's the actual standard number that you're going to see. So training for chemical hazard communication, and then down here, SDS is being readily available to your workers. Those are 3 of the top 10 are related to chemical hazard communication. Then we get into lockout, tagout, not having procedures for each machine or equipment that you have out there that you need to lock out. Safe operation of powered industrial trucks, respirators twice, and that has to do with mainly the COVID inspections we're doing. We had an increase in our respirators, but if you require respirators, we'll talk a little bit about it more. Point of operations is machine guarding and then fall protection. And in general industry, this fall protection standard applies to anything above 4 feet where you don't have fall protection. So we're going to go through these. I want to show you something real quick, though. If you go to www.osha.gov, I'm going to show you how you can run this top 10 list for your industry. So I'm going to go to the website. I'm going to stop sharing and go back to it. Hopefully I can pull it up and you can see it. Carrie, let me know if I got it so that you can see it.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, so this is the target page for OSHA.gov. Now, for some reason, it's in real big text on my screen. I'm sure it has to do with the screen itself and not the fact that I can hardly read small print anymore. It's sometimes screens, react differently, but yours may look a little different with a lot more information on it. But the point is, when you go to the first screen, hit the menu button and you'll go to help and resources. Okay. And we can have somebody talk you through this later if you need, but if you go to help and resources and scroll down to, there's a lot of neat things there. But data and statistics is where we're going to go. Okay. And then down here's a lot of nice tools you can use. You can look at your establishment or other establishments and find out what OSHA's done to cite them. This is a newer one we have. It's called High Penalties by State. You can look at some of the highest penalties that have been cited. I'll click on that real quick to show you how it works. It goes by state. So I'm going to click on Ohio. Sorry if I'm hurting your eyes as I scroll through. But if you click on Ohio, it will go in chronological order on some of the latest cases that we've done here. So you can look at who's been issued citations and the penalty amount. It's kind of a neat tool. You can see, and you can click on the company's name. Let's look at something down in Cincinnati, just see what they're doing down there. Okay, Menards. So they cited a Menards down there. You can click on this and see exactly what citations they issued, where the inspection was. So they issued lockout tagout. Go figure. See a lot of lockout tagouts, and you can see that the fines were a little over 13,000. So I mean, that's a tool you can use to look at what companies are being cited and the high penalties. But what I'm going to show you is the frequently cited OSHA standards. If you click on this is where we're getting the data that we're presenting. Are you seeing that all right, Carrie or Ken? Are we?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so when you get to the screen, I'm going to show you. It says, so if you know your NAICS code, you can enter the NAICS code right here in this blank. If you don't know it, just hit submit. Just leave it in empty. So on the left there, it says all. So I'm just doing all numbers of employees. You can do it for small companies. You can do it for larger companies, but I do it for all. You get that. So when you hit submit, you're going to get a list of your NAICS codes. So this, you can tell what you do, right? So you find out what you do. So let's just pick one. So say you do dairy product manufacturing. So you can go up to, you can do the broader NAICS code, or you can even do all of manufacturing, right? So I'm going to do food manufacturing. I'm going to click on that. And what it's going to show you is for the last fiscal year, what the top standards were cited, how many inspections were conducted. So 351 inspections conducted in food manufacturing last year. This is nationwide. And then 944 citations issued. And the top standard cited was 1910-147 machine guarding. Now you can look at the penalty and you can do a little math. So if I take the penalty, it's 3,082,084, and I divide that by the number of citations issued, 212. I get 14,500. So the average penalty issued for each lockout standard that we cited in food manufacturing was 14,500. So as a safety person in your workplace, add all that up, all the standards you find and all the hazards you prevent, that's what you're saving your company by finding them and fixing them before OSHA finds them, right? And you can go down and see what all different things we cited on that. It's a really good tool, and that's all I'm using that Ken and I are going to be presenting from. So I encourage you to use that tool. So I'll go back.
And one of the things that tells me was when you said that the average, is average penalty of 14,000 something, that means it's an average of, on the average, 2 citations per company on average. Might be, there might be some gets 4, some gets 1, but that means on an average there's at least 2, because the high grade your penalty is 13,264. So that means if they're over that, there's at least 2 citations on average.
Right. And that's a good point. So you got, right, that's probably more accurate, actually. You're right. It's so it's 2 citations per company on lockout tagout, which is, that's significant, right? So and we'll show you what those are. Good leading, Ken. See, I know I brought you for a reason. So I'm going to show you some hazards, and I'm going to show you the top 10. So this is one we see in general industry a lot, right? Now, this guy's climbing shelves. We see that a lot, and you may or may not see it, but if you have racking and shelves out in your work site, I bet you some people are going to climb it for ease of access. If it's over 4 feet, generally when they start getting 2 or 3 shelves high, they're probably in violation if they don't have fall protection. So that's going to transfer into some of the walking working surface violations we have. The top violation is 1910.28B1I, which is unprotected sides and edges. So that involves people climbing on machines, people climbing on equipment, without having guardrails or some kind of tie-off for protection. So, and Carrie talked about, I know that one of the top workers' compensation claims in Ohio is slips, trips, and falls at same level, right? So look at what we're citing a lot. We're citing walking working surfaces being kept clean, 22A1, work on floor not kept in a dry condition. This bottom one we cited 61 times in our region last year, and nationwide last year, but we cited this. I know we cited this on a fatality inspection we did where they plugged into a 480 volt box, and there was a splice that was lying in wet conditions, and it ended up resulting in someone getting killed. So it's very important that you keep your workplaces clean, clutter-free, and this is kind of what we're citing on those. So this is all through general industry. Here's a picture. I'm not going to tell you the workplace that this comes from, but you see any issues with this? This
garage.
This is so this is actually blocked exit citation. So over here, I think somewhere there's an exit. And if there was a fire, and think about all this combustible material that could ignite, there are some types of establishments out there that get a lot of deliveries in. And if they're left to clutter by the exit door, that's a violation. And guess what? Our top violation in 1910-33 for 39 is having exits blocked, not kept free and unobstructed. Then we've also got clearly visible and marked, the signs posted for evacuation routes, able to open from the inside. These are fire code requirements, and the sign's not posted for not an exit. So if you've got a door that you're not going to be using for an exit, you want an exit sign for the ones that are an exit, and put a sign that's not an exit if you're not using it. You don't want an employee or a visitor from the outside going into an area that's unsafe. So that's that one. Any other comments on that? The exits, it's pretty simple, I think, Ken. You guys probably see that. So here's one we see common. Now this on a construction site, but oftentimes we'll see a JLG or an extended boom lift device out there. And what's the hazard on that? Hopefully most of you would be able to see that pretty quickly, that this person's not wearing a lanyard and a harness to protect them. And these are built with a tie-off anchorage point on these. So guess what? We see that a lot. And as a result, this is our top violation when you're looking at powered platforms, man-listed, mounted work platforms. So personal fall arrest systems have to be worn on vehicle-mounted platforms, right? And then in construction, it's a different standard, but we see it a lot in construction. Employees standing firmly on the basket floor. That's cited a lot in construction, because guess what? You go to the top of where you want, and the employee needs to climb up to reach something, right? We see that a lot. So if we see it or you see it, remind them that's a violation that OSHA sees a lot. Noise is a common one. I like this chart because it kind of shows you, some of the different levels of noise. what I like to say out there, and I'm talking outside of Ken's because he's not an industrial hygienist by trade, so he gets maybe a little bored on these types of stuff. But noise-induced hearing loss is permanent. You can't get it back, right? So it's very important. OSHA in Region 5 just started a noise emphasis program. So we're going to be looking at this in Ohio. So a general rule of thumb is if you can hold a conversation at indoor voice level, I have to tell my one daughter, use your indoor voice. But if you don't have to shout or raise your voice to get above equipment or machinery or noise in your facility, you're probably pretty close to the 80 decibels, right? Or less than 80. If you're above 85, now you have to have OSHA involved. You have to have a program. It's called a chemical or a hearing conservation program for noise. And guess what? This is one of our top violations. So my advice is if you think something loud, have BWC. They have IHs come out. Carrie will come out. She's got a little meter. And if they can't come out in person, download a noise app on your iPhone or your smartphone. These things are amazingly accurate. I've held them up to the next to the $300, $500 piece of equipment that we have. And the noise levels, the decibel levels are just about the same. So this is a good way. If you're anywhere above 80, it's a good idea to have monitoring. We use an 8-hour time weighted average, but if you're over 85, you have to have a hearing conservation program where you require training, audiometric tests, monitoring for noise, and annual audiograms for each employee. So these are our most common citations if you have noise levels above 85. So next up, compressed gases and hazardous materials. This is an interesting one. 1910.101B, we cite the most. You're saying, what the heck is that? Handling, storage, and use. So safe handling, storage, and use of compressed gases if you have them at your facility. So you know what? I gave you the cheater code. I put it in there last night. I mean, several weeks ago when I prepared for Carrie to do the presentation. Not last night. She knows I wouldn't do this last minute. But this is the actual standard. It says compressed gases, blah, 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 have to be in accordance with Compressed Gas Association pamphlet P1 1965. So go look for P1 1965. Guess what? It's outdated. So OSHA standards are outdated a little bit, but basically what it tells you is I took a snippet from this. Gas cylinders have to be secured to prevent tipping, used, secured with appropriate material, not stored where they could be struck by forklifts, segregated, separated, flammable from oxygen, and by at least 20 feet or by firewalls. These are the most common violations you're going to see in that. Easy ones, Ken. We learned that right in the initial class, but that's what you see a lot. The respirator standards. The reason I put this is the healthcare and nursing homes. If you require respirators, you have to have a written respiratory protection program if you require them. So now with the COVID, what's happened is healthcare, nursing homes, they've required their employees to wear respirators. Even these, which are the N95 single-use respirators, you have to have a written program. You have to follow the provisions of the program. So if you look at the most frequently cited standards, providing a medical evaluation, you have to provide a medical evaluation to ensure that they can wear a respirator that has negative pressure. You have to have a written program. Make sure the employees are fit tested. And the other one's under PPE. This is the workplace hazard assessment, which is all PPE, includes eye protection, foot protection, etc. We cite that a lot for not having a hazard assessment. And then go ahead.
In Cleveland, do you all see the violation for the misuse of the medical information, like where the employer is actually getting the medical information, which they're not supposed to get? Are you all seeing that in Cleveland?
That's a good question. We, in general, when You mean from the provider that they hired to
Yes.
do the test?
Yes.
That's a good question. What they send us that they shouldn't be sending us, is that what you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because we have seen, and even before COVID, we were starting to have a pretty big significant issue with it.
Interesting. Yeah, so keep an eye on that you're not maintaining medical records that you shouldn't. We send it back to the company because we usually don't need it. We just want them to verify that they've done it. Lockout, tag out, I use this picture a lot. If you're that guy going into this, what do you want to know? What do you want to know, Ken? Ken, what does that guy want to know before he sticks his head in there to clear a jam or whatever he's doing?
That thing is not going to start, or nobody can start it on me.
Right. And how's he going to ensure that, Ken?
He is going to be the one that puts his employer supplied lock that he's been trained on as an affected employee, and he will verify the startup cannot take place.
Yeah, he will push that button to make sure they got it locked on the right source of energy, right? And everybody group lockout should be in that. We have so many unnecessary deaths and amputations based on the failure to use lockout. So that's a big one. Here's the most common ones we cite, okay? Not having procedures at all, right? You have to have procedures for each piece of equipment. A lot of people have a program, but they don't have specific procedures for each machine. We cite that the most often. The second highest is periodic inspections. Annually, you have to inspect to make sure the procedures are up to date and accurate, and make sure that your people are trained and that they're utilizing the lockout procedures. I recommend when you do a monthly walkthrough or however often you do it, stop at a machine and ask that employee how they lock it out. And then check off that machine as something you evaluated. If they're shortcutting, which a lot of them do, try to find that out, because that's where the accidents are happening, right? So authorized employee training, which Ken said, a lot of times we'll have machine operators that are told they're not supposed to go in unclear jams, but guess what? They do it. They try to help, and that's a citation, and often an injury, too often, right? So that's common on that.
Really quick, if I could throw something in on that really quick, Howie, to save you some heartache, some headache, and some money, if rule of thumb for those of us that are not industrial hygienists and super intelligent, Howie, that the rule of thumb is, for machine guarding, you can't reach over, under, or through. I just had this in an informal conference. And for lockout, tag out, if it's not guarded, you have to lock out or tag out. You have to do one or the other. You can't just let your people, I know there's routine repetitive, but you still have to protect people. They have to do one or the other, guard or lockout. Just keep that in mind, and you will do yourself a ton of favors of staying out of trouble.
Yeah, good one, Ken. I know we're running close to time. I'll try to get through some of these fast. Eye wash and body flushing facilities, if you use corrosive materials, and that's on either side of the spectrum, low pH or high pH, where something can cause severe burns to your skin or your eyes, having at least 15-minute flow. It's better to hardwire it or hard pipe it versus having those hang-up ones. Some of the hang-up ones have 15-minute flow, but if you don't use them for a period of time or flush them, you can have bacteria settle on those. Has anybody seen this on a fire extinguisher before? What is this? This is an inspection tag. This is a very easy violation for an OSHA inspector to find, because let's say it's July and I'm going in there and I pull this tag up and all I see is the initial one when it was put in use in January, right? You're supposed to do monthly inspections of these, right? And document them. It's very important that you do that. So our top violations in fire protection is having portable extinguishers mounted and readily accessible, and having their annual maintenance checks and visual monthly inspections. Then training on how to use them, the basic use. A lot of the fire departments will do that for free if you don't have it. So what we do is we'll ask the employees, what do you do in the event of emergency? Are you allowed to use fire extinguishers? If they say yes, you have to have some kind of basic training on them. So it's a common violation we see all the time. Forklifts. This one on the left, I use common because this resulted in an accident because they overloaded it and they couldn't see where they were going and pinned some employee in there. Also unsafe storage. This resulted in a fatality, the picture on the bottom right, when this bin of metal parts fell while a guy was working there beside it. It was just unsafely stacked, can result in fatality. So also looking at the storage racks, right? These are easy things you see. This one, the rack got knocked off. So what's holding those pallets up, right? Nothing right there. So somebody moves it, they come crashing down, right? So these are things you can look through and see when you're walking through your facility, and they're things we see a lot. These are the citations we do for powered industrial vehicles and forklifts. So training. You have to certify it. It has to be done every 3 years, or when somebody has an accident, maintaining them in safe operating condition and inspected. So those are our top forklift violations, right? Machine guarding, Ken already mentioned, the guy on the left sticking his finger in there. Can he get into a dangerous condition? What's he doing on the right? You know, we're going to ask yourself, can you get in? Simple mixer. Bakeries have a lot of amputations in their maintenance department. Just having the cover there. If this starts spinning, what's going to prevent an employee from being exposed? So machine guarding, 212A1 and 212A3II are most common violations. Point of operation is where it's actually doing the work. And machine guarding is general, where it can create a hazard. Also abrasive wheels. You can go into your maintenance shop or your, go in there and see if it has one of these guards, tongue guard, or if it has the work rest. Make sure they're close in so that a tool can't go under. That's a very common violation that we see in OSHA. Using compressed air for cleaning, right? That's a big one. They have a little opening on the newer ones that releases the air, so the end air pressure isn't more than 30 psi. Some of these cheap ones, like the top left you provide on the internet, they don't have that. So if they're using that, you can shoot a lot of force in there, but it can cause injuries. That's a common violation. If you're using compressed air, make sure the end pressure isn't more than 30 psi. Gas welding, keeping the fuel gas cylinders away from welding and cutting, right? So if they're being stored, right? Obviously the center lead oxygen tanks, they're stored on the cart, you're using that. The ones that aren't in use, protection from arc flash, you've got those barricades you can put up on those. If you got a lot of welding operations throughout the shop, if you've ever had an arc flash, I had it one time from doing an inspection in OSHA when I first started, and I didn't know what it was, but it was a horrible feeling and sensation in your eyes. You can hardly close it. It feels like there's a bunch of sand over your eyelids. Safe storage of the cylinders. We talked about damaged cables on the machinery. Those are some common ones we see. Here's a maybe this is a little more than sometimes we see, but if you see cylinders stored, they need to be separated from the oxygen and secured, right? There's a couple violations right in that picture. Electrical, looking for the biggest ones I could tell you to look for, and Ken can tell me, if you see exposed wires or damage to wires or conductors, and you can get access to them, we cite that under a variety of different methods. Safe about just splicing, missing ground prongs. These are common ones you see. The strain relief, where it's coming apart, the insulation's coming apart, replace those. If we see electrical tape around something and a big bulge, we're going to look and say a problem. This is a common one we cite all the time, is safe clearance around electrical access panels, right? So don't store stuff around the access panels. If you see it, move it away. You have to have at least 3 feet clearance in front of those, right, Ken? Did I get the number right?
Yep.
I think it's 3 feet at a minimum. So, and then chemical hazard communication, which we talked about. The violations, if you run those reports for yourself, insert the 13,000 or use the average. That's how much you're saving your company for each violation you find in your workplace that OSHA doesn't find. So hopefully they don't get the will for a repeat, but that's the penalties we're looking at. So, when you report to your owner or your CEO, add up all the violations that you found and fixed, and add the money that you're saving the company. And I always say, hey, give me 10% of that. You're going to be going away happy, right? Win-win. I doubt they'll give it to you, but that's how much you're saving them, right? And you're saving the injuries and illnesses. So, don't know if you guys had any questions. We kind of went through that kind of quick, but I know we're running out of time and Ken's got to get to an informal. Did you have any questions on there?
The one question I saw, Howie, is when you were talking about the fines, what does OSHA do with that money? Can you share where the citation money goes?
Ken, hey Ken, do you have a picture of your new pickup truck that you can show everyone? No, amazingly, there is an assumption that OSHA puts it in their budget or whatever. Those fines go into the general fund of the United States of America, the same place your tax returns go to. And any fines in the federal government, I have no clue where it goes and what is done with it, but we don't see any of that. It's not based on our budget, anything like that. So
It's forwarded straight to the Treasury.
yeah, so it goes to Treasury. Any other questions, Carrie or Stephanie?
I'm not seeing any. If anybody has questions, we have another minute or two. Go ahead and put that in there. Howie, I know folks are going to want to know if they can have access to your PowerPoint that you created.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Okay. And the one thing, if anybody is typing in right now, we'll give you another second. But just so you know, Howie and Ken, they're kind of our teasers for the rest of the year. And so I know, this was presented so awesome, and we could talk about each one of these topics for an entire meeting or an entire day. And that was the intent of this year is, we're going to have a meeting on HazCom. We're going to have a meeting on respirators and on lockout and on machine guarding. And we're going to hit all these hardcore topics this year. So just know that we're doing that to help everybody learn a little bit more about each one of these. And we're going to, make them exciting. I don't know if they'll be as exciting, Ken, as you and Howie, or Howie, you and Ken have been, but they're going to be, exciting as we can be. And I put the link for the safety templates too. If anybody, from what Howie said or what Ken said, you're like, oh no, I need a written HazCom program. I put the link in there for that too. So lots of kudos. And if you're still on here, I'd say let's give these two amazing speakers a round of applause. That would be really good. And great job as usual to both of you. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to come and talk to my group or this group today.
Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Yep.
Take care.
Yep. Thank you.
Good stuff. Thanks, guys.
And as usual, everyone, we have recorded this, so we will put it up on the Medina County Safety Council website, and then we will get the slides from Ken and Howie and send those to you via email. So if you have any questions, please always feel free to reach out to Carrie or myself, and we look forward to seeing you in August.
Thank you, everybody.